And welcome back to Sports Check on this Monday morning. It is the 26th day of September 2022. Well, the weekend is done, and over the weekend we had the close of the East Africa School Games, and they were taking place in Arusha, Tanzania. Kenya finishing in second place with 5 gold, 12 silver, 3 bronze. Uganda topping that table with 18 gold, 10 silver, 13 bronze. A total dominance of the event by Uganda. Well, my name is Daniel Wahome. Our sign language interpreter is Byron Abuli. And let's take a look at the school games, and we have to look back at even how the season started, because it was an unusual one, especially for the Kenyan side. To speak about that, Moses Mbudia, he was the basketball commissar in Arusha. Mbudia, welcome.
Thank you.
All right. So, and let's first of all take a look at, the background of this school games. The last time we had the East African Games was in, I think, September 2019, but the pandemic happened in 2020, which means that Term 1 games stopped when all sporting activity stopped in around April. You could not have games even when schools resumed later in November. What has been that transition?
Well, first, it is important to note that this was the 19th edition. Mm-hmm. We just started the other day. That was in the Nana School 19 years ago, minus the COVID years. And I must say here that Kenya has dominated these games. We have only been beaten twice by the same country, Uganda. And as you have stated, yes, it is true that we've had a number of hurdles, hiccups, name it, more reason why we didn't perform well. But one would ask whether in Uganda there was COVID.
There was. Actually, they were stricter than us.
So I don't think we have to blame COVID for our not performing well. We should look at exactly what Uganda is doing and why they were able to beat us. That's where we should start. Other than being a commissar, I was also a team manager. So we are to blame for not giving you the results.
All right. Now, let's move. Before we actually move on to, what was that? The question is, how did we get back sport in schools? Because we know as of, say, March last year, still the sport hadn't been allowed back in schools. Maybe you could tell us about that.
It took a lot of time from the Ministry of Education, and we must thank one gentleman by the name of Mr. Nduare, who is the director in the Ministry of Education, who is also the patron of these games. It took his intervention, of course, with the help of the peers and the minister. And we said now we have to resume these activities. For the first time in the history of this sport, we had to do this championship in a form of an Olympic, where all the sports, the 11 disciplines, were done in 5 days in Nakuru. And that did also cascade into the region, the county, and the sub-region. All these activities were done in a small Olympic kind of, at those stages that I've talked about. So it was not an easy event. And of course, I must say here that we didn't have money to conduct this thing. This was purely passion that was driving the teachers, and the teachers were very ready to have the games resume. So I want to thank the teachers at this point in time, because they did a lot. Payment they'll get later, but first they had to deliver.
Kazi kwanza, pesa baadaye.
Baadaye.
But we also want to ask something about this. Precisely at what point, because this wasn't loudly announced, precisely at what point was sport allowed back in schools?
This was about a month and a half ago, and I think the ministry just gave the signal.
So in 2021, basically, if a student was training, it was alone?
Well, yeah, it was an individual effort, and we did not have that one as a curricula, because we no longer take sport as an extra curricula, but it's a curricula by itself. So the resumption did take place. I'm talking about 2 months ago. And after that, when the signal was given, the secretaries of various regions, which are 8 in this country, were given the mandate to make sure that they deliver, and they did. Yes.
Coming back and, pushing through the, coming down from the zones all the way down to the nationals, what were the responses that you saw from the teachers and those?
Well, I think the enthusiasm that was there with the teachers and even the students, because when the discipline was very high, I must say, because these young ones did not want to hear again from the ministry that sports are going to be stopped. So they had to behave. The teachers had to behave. And everybody was saying, okay, no money, yes, but let's get moving. So basically what I would say, I think the teachers were really yearning to have this sport back. And I can tell you, even if there were to be African Championship, these teachers would have gone to whether Morocco or South Africa with no pay. You'd be surprised for them, some of them, to find their way. They hitchhike all the way up to those countries.
All right. No, you can't hitchhike to Morocco. By the time you get back, the games will have been done. But anyway, now, yes. Some standout things.
Yes.
Schools, Kwantanze, Cheptil, Weita, they were just being themselves. But then we saw Koyonzo come in and dominate rugby.
Yes.
Then we saw Dr. Agri coming in basketball.
Yes.
So it's no longer a case of Maseno. It's no longer a case of Mangu.
The big boys.
And then you've got the case of Highway Secondary School.
Yes.
You know, winning the national title in football.
Yes.
What's the introduction of these new names?
I think to start with, I must first, charity begins at home. As the secretary of Nairobi Secondary School Sports Association, you might have noted that we did not have 1, 2, 3, 4. We had 7 disciplines that we took to Arusha in Tanzania. And the soccer team that you're talking about, Highway, which was number 2 in Nairobi, because we disqualified the number 1 for reasons better known to us.
Which we can guess.
Yes, your guess could be as good as mine. And the number 2 Highway team went all the way up to East Africa and took position 2. And that is a Nairobi product. The soccer girls were number 4. That is the Great Mixed, where my chairman comes from. That is Mr. Maurice Okumu. Highway also broke barriers, ideally. Beldin Odemba, a woman in charge of that team. Yes, it's a lady team. I mean, a lady coach.
Lady coach.
And you know the last time Highway won a Nairobi title? Way back in 1979. How old were you?
I wouldn't disclose. I wouldn't disclose how old I was.
So what we're saying here in a nutshell is that, to start with, before we go nationally, the Nairobi team had a bulk of the team, the basketball, the 3-on-3 hardball team, which was number 4, that is the Hospital Hill. We had the swimmer, nearly all the swimmers from Nairobi, and they won the gold medal. We had the lawn tennis students, and for your information, the best student. The best student for javelin was from Nairobi by the name of Mondi from Babadogo Secondary School. In fact, we may as well change the name Babadogo and give it Baba Kubwa because the boy has won a javelin from the small school that you're talking about.
Okay.
Yes. Nationally now, I don't know whether you still want to add one more question.
Well, yes, we are with Moses Mbudia, who is he was a commissar when it comes to basketball, and this is at the East Africa School Games. So that's, he's telling us the stories and how Kenya, planned as they went through, coming down, from the zonals all the way up to the nationals. Eventually, Uganda dominating the East African Games. So remember, schools that won, Cheptil, they won boys volleyball, which means that, yes, they retained their title. Otherwise, that was headed to Uganda. Then we had Kwantanze. They were the regular Kwantanze side, dominating and again winning another title in girls volleyball, saving the country some blushes. And Bwana, let's now come, to the East African Games.
Yes.
You say Uganda are doing something.
Yes.
What is different? What is it that Uganda is doing differently, such that even post-COVID, they can be a dominant force?
I think you've hit the point on the head. And it's important to say here that sometimes call a spade a spade. I did not just go there as a commissioner of basketball. I was also the team manager. And I was interested in how these teams were beating us. So I had an engagement with the Minister for Sports from Uganda, a very young man. Who sits in the cabinet. Though he's an assistant minister, he sits in the cabinet because the Minister for Education and Sport is Madam Museveni. So he's given a leeway to the cabinet to share about sport. And this young man was very enthusiastic because he was going to nearly all the games. He was not alone. He was accompanied by the chairman of Sports Council Uganda, Daktari, and they did their research. A man who gets a vote directly from the exchequer to sponsor sports. And he was also not, I mean, they were not the only two. They were accompanied by the commissioner of sports from Uganda. Are you getting the
So it was a full government delegation.
Full government delegation with the name of ensuring that they did not just participate, but they participated. What do I mean? They were not just interested in
full competition.
Yes, it was full competition. They had a wide range of over 1,080 students. Well, we had 480. So they invested heavily. All the young ones who won in primary school were represented there. Even the special case, they were represented there. You can see that the Ugandans are not just interested in winning the trophy. They are also taking care of their primary school. And to me, I was touched. If I were to state the point directly and hit the point on the head, I even don't think the Minister for Sports knew that we were in Arusha.
Wacha. Wacha hapo. Let us just leave that at that before we speak about that. But let's talk about the 5 teams that won. The 5 Kenyan teams that won the medals. Tell us about them and what really clicked for them.
Well, first, again, charity begins at home. Volleyball. It was not on a silver platter. The Kwathansia girls have been well trained by a gentleman by the name Kigwari. Kigwari has really worked on that team with the support of the principal, because games are normally sponsored by the principal and the games master. So Kigwari has maintained, and I think even with or without COVID, Kigwari was still training those girls. You could tell, because they were professional. The way they were handling balls, the way they were turning everything, they were doing it very professionally. Then number 2, we had a team from Trans Nzoia, and that is Kesogon. Kesogon also did a lot, and appearing to be top 2 in the whole of East Africa. It's not easy. I even suspect if we had a third team, would have won the bronze medal. But we cannot also underestimate the Rwandese with their height and what have you. But our boys and girls were able to overcome that. Now boys, Cheptil.
And when it comes to the Rwanda scenario, it is a legacy of Paul Bitok.
Well, I wouldn't say so.
I mean, some foundations.
It is from the top, the head of state, who commands everybody that with our height, how do we exploit our height? Because that was the first thing in the cabinet meeting. With our height, what do? Do we capitalize on basketball and volleyball? The answer was yes. And that is where now they had to get the expatriate from Kenya. It was Bitok. There was Dasamba, who is now a honorable member in Bungoma.
Yes.
And I think and many other expatriates like Muringe. Muringe was also in Rwanda. And you can remember there was some time when we had an exodus of very many teachers teaching in Rwanda. So this kind of a base was put together, and Bitok now came and gave now the top cream. So they are reaping. I mean, they're reaping what the teachers from Kenya have invested.
So we have actually. So ideally, if this talent, the kind of people we're talking about, if they were allowed to stay here and given the same opportunities, then would be a monster.
But you're telling me not to go there.
No, I will not let you go there.
What you're saying is true. There is one thing from these games of 2022 that we have learned, that we don't realize what we have until we lose it. I think Kenya, we have underrated ourselves, and we have thought everything is normal until we were beaten by the Ugandans. This is the time now we are taking a backseat and asking ourselves, excuse me, how did it happen? And this to us is a big
Okay, let's start with this. We lost the rugby title to Uganda.
Yeah, we lost the rugby title, we lost the basketball title, we lost, the handball, we lost soccer in women, because sometimes we were winning with Yeta. We lost even swimming, we lost badminton, we lost,
hockey.
Yes, we lost hockey, a game that is ours for years. Not just at the secondary school level. Even you can remember for many years the Orange team winning the title in Africa, and even doing very well, being rated among the top in the world. So slowly we are losing it by assuming that things will just work out the way they are supposed to work out. If we don't train I can tell you, we shall not just be beaten by Ugandans, we shall also be beaten by the Rwandese. We thank God that the Burundians were not there. I mean, in quote, we never know whether even the few goals that we got maybe would have gone to Burundi. And I believe that they'll be there next year because they'll be the ones hosting us. I mean, they'll be hosting us. They had their own issues, but the president of the representative of Fiesa from Burundi came and pleaded that they host the next year's game.
Okay, so let's continue with the winning, with the 5 winners. So we've got Quantante, we've got Cheptil, and and also the 12 silver that we picked
from athletics.
From athletics,
yes, and swimming.
So
and 1 from badminton. We also got a gold from javelin, which is among the 12 that you've talked about, and even we got another silver from a school here called Bagadiwe. I mean, small school in the slums, producing and giving us the result. Even those majority of lawn tennis students are from a school near Kibra, and they train in Nairobi club, but they are from the slum, so to speak, and they're doing very well.
So yes, that's what we say. Sport is an equalizer. It gives everyone an opportunity as it comes. And what I'm with you now, let me say, tough lessons learned, and you've got 1 year to plan.
Yes.
And hopefully everything will now be normal.
Yes.
We'll run normally now.
Yes,
so you'll have the game sometime,
yes,
the usual time, September, October. So what's the way forward now for the coaches as we head to what we call term 1?
To go to our normal position, so to speak, when we shall not do things helter-skelter. We shall plan and plan and plan. We shall have the term 1 games done well, and the other second term games done very well. We lumped them together, and some of the referees, the same teachers, the same coaches, we did that. So we shall be able to spell them out. Number 2, if you looked at what we did immediately after finishing in Nakuru, the boys and girls were put in a vehicle and route to Arusha. We did not have 1 week even to acclimatize or even to train as a unit. There was nothing like that. It was now helter-skelter getting the passport for the young girls, and no one even got a day to recover from any injury. So in this case, we are saying we shall be able to plan well. Number 2, we expect the Ministry of Education to get enough funds from the exchequer. One wonders where this exchequer gets the money. And we expect also the teachers to contribute in one way or the other by building the nation, so that at least we can have additional money in the exchequer, which will be remitted back to them. Number 3, we said we have to add our discipline. Where we have defending champion, let's take our number 3. For us to have an upper stake. And the other thing is we must also capacity build. We must be able, and I believe that we shall have a team leaving for Uganda just to see how things are done. I even went out of my way and realized that we have got 3 important bodies in Uganda that does help the growth of the sport. 1, we have the National Sports Council. We have the Commonwealth Federation, and we have NOC. 3 bodies sourcing their way and also funding the young one. Kenya, we don't have the Commonwealth.
Actually, the Commonwealth Federation is incorporated within NOC.
And it should be independent. Yes. These are some of the drawbacks that we have in this country. And those are some of the things that we're supposed to separate. We should do a bit of
and we also have a sports
decantation. Yes, come again?
We also have a sports council.
Which is not very active, I must say. But it was, I think it was lent at 2 threads by the internal politics. We should have those bodies being independent and learn independently to help the young ones build whatever we have.
All right. Bwana Moses Mbuthia, thank you very much for being with us. Just a quick one. Are you going to have archery? Irene Limika was here and she asked if you're going to have archery in schools.
It's very simple. If she can hear me, whether at home or here, is we have a policy where you just present your case to the Ministry of Education. We have the policy makers. We have the patron, that is Mr. Nduare, who will call the stakeholders, and they'll go into a panel where they'll be asked why they want to bring hatchery on board. And number 3, we also have other games like beach volleyball. We'd like them to come on board, not just hatchery.
All right.
Yes.
So we'll do that. Thank you very much, Bwana Mbuthia, and hope to see more of the school games and the winners. There is also game on, so we are booking them already right now on national TV.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much for being with us. My name is Daniel Wahome.